Hello, chat room. We're here, we're ready to kick it off. So we're going to get going in 3, 2, 1.
You're listening to The Starting Zone, a podcast about World of Warcraft and the people who play it. And now, here are your hosts.
Well, hello and welcome to The Starting Zone, the podcast about World of Warcraft, the people who play it. Today is June 29th, 2025, and my name is Spencer Downey. Thank you so much for listening and subscribing to our podcast. I'm joined today, as always, by my co-host Jason Lucas. Jason, how are you doing on this fine Sunday?
I am here. I have not yet evaporated. It is very hot in my neck of the woods this weekend, but I am doing well. I'm managing to stay cool, stay hydrated. It is Midsummer Fire Fest, so
It is.
I guess that's what happens.
Yep.
But yeah, I'm doing well. I'm in sort of an interesting, kind of a weird spot with WoW right now, because obviously we're very deep in the season. I've had a lot of roster turnover and stuff, and just interest overall in this season is dropping off, right? It's summertime, obviously. People have other stuff to do. This content's been out since early March. But I've still been doing a bunch of stuff in WoW, and I've started calling it recreational WoW, because it's stuff that doesn't really fit into the weekly checklist of like, oh, I got to do this stuff for my vault, and I got to do that and whatever. I'm doing some of that still, obviously, but you know, there's other stuff to do that is more sort of like a longer tail goal or just more casual kind of stuff. And there's a bunch of that stuff actually coming up this week with some events that are kicking off. And to me, that's kind of more exciting. That's more exciting than the tail end of season 2, right? I kind of met all my goals with end game stuff, and it's like having some other stuff to chase or just some stuff to kind of play at my own pace is actually really appealing right now. So I have a couple of things like that I'm still in the middle of existing stuff. Looking forward to getting into new stuff that's coming. I think it's like kind of a nice spot for like a .7 to be in, I guess, right? Like I still haven't even gotten into lore walking, and I want to check that stuff out and get those rewards, but it's like, it'll be there. I can do it when I want to do it, and it's not tied to that kind of weekly grind of, oh, I got to make sure that I check all these off the list.
Yeah, with midnight announcements coming up at Gamescom, because we know that's going to be happening. We'll talk about that a little bit later in the show. I feel like we've hit a point with .7 where we're like, okay, we have PTR, we have raid testing happening for everything that's lined up for the next season. There's going to be announcements about the next expansion in a little while. So this needs some life, and I feel like they are doing an okay job at drip feeding in some life to the .7 patch to keep people going and logging in and doing stuff. For me, I mean, one of the big things I was making sure I was doing was the Time Ways event. I need to be sure that I'm getting that mount. So after we recorded last week, I went out and did my 4 time walking. So I made sure that I actually had that in, which was good, and had the buff. And then on Tuesday at reset, I just logged into the same character again. I'm doing it on alt. I did 1 time walking, which then refreshes the buff and counts towards the week as a contribution. So now I can just sort of have that back-pocketed alt that I log into on each of these weeks and just do 1 time walking to make sure that I actually get that done. But it was funny because it was BFA time walking for the 4 that I ran, and it was really neat to go back and revisit some of those dungeons. And there are some people who, I don't know if there's like different routes that people were attempting to do, but we had one member of our group who we actually ended up having to remove from the group because they just weren't participating. It was, we went into Waycrest Manor and we cleared the whole first floor. We went right to the boar boss, did the boar boss, then did the outside boss, and cleared both of those, and then went to go down and, did the witches, and then went to go down into the basement, and the person went upstairs. And we were like, but they kept pinging, like it was like spam pinging for people to come upstairs. And we're like, okay, did they have like a quest or like what is this that we're doing upstairs? Okay, sure. So we went upstairs and then there was nothing there. And so we went downstairs to the basement and we're pinging to try and get the person to fall to the basement. And then we're running around upstairs and wouldn't come down to the basement. And it was just like, I don't understand what you're trying to accomplish or what's happening. You're not typing anything in chat. You're not responding to anyone. All you're doing is pinging a bunch and running around in the upstairs of the house. And we all came to investigate to see what was going on, but there was nothing there. So we're leaving now. We're gonna finish the dungeon. See you later. And it was just like eventually it was one of those, like, someone put up a vote to kick, and you're like, look, I can't help you if this is the situation. If you're not gonna communicate and you're just gonna run around and ping a bunch upstairs, people are gonna kick you from a group. So it was it was a very weird experience in the Waycrest Manor, but I did enjoy going back and seeing all those dungeons again. So I'm glad to see that BFA has made its way into the rotation for time walking finally.
Yeah, I think BFA had some of the coolest dungeons. BFA, it was pretty maligned at the time, but I think overall it was a good expansion. Yes, it landed kind of rough, but I enjoyed it, and I enjoyed a lot of the dungeons, especially the ones that they picked for the time walking pool. But yeah, maybe they were just scared to go into the basement. It is scary.
It is. Maybe that was it. Maybe, like, literally it was a fear of basements. They just didn't want to.
Just too scared to go down there.
Yeah, it's possible.
Because once all the other bosses are dead, there's nothing upstairs. I did some time walking this week on the main. I'm just doing it on the main, which seems maybe kind of weird, but I need 1 billion badges for all the new stuff they put in the last year. And I still don't have the Infinite Time Reaver, which I'm probably never going to get, but I figure whatever, like, the more dungeons I do, the more chance I have to get one, right? So I had kind of a similar experience with the MOP stuff this week. I was able to actually dispense justice on somebody with a vote kick, and it felt really good. I will say, like, the MOP time walking was just lightning fast. Like, whatever changes they did with the scaling, it really didn't make any kind of difference at all. Like,
you cued me. You cued me into something in my head with the changes to the scaling that I forgot to mention. I healed all of the time walkings, and it felt like I had to cast like 4 times as many healing spells as I normally would have to cast to be able to get people top back up when things were happening. So the character, I was healing on a Resto Druid, and it's a Resto Druid that I geared during the anniversary event. And just one second. I can actually hear myself through your headphones, Jason. I don't know what's going on there. There's something weird going on.
Oh, weird. Let me turn my headphones down.
Yeah, just a little bit. Anyways, I'll go back and start that part again. You cued me that I was healing on my Resto Druid in the time walkings that I did, and I felt like I had to cast 3 to 4 times as many healing spells to actually get someone top back up. Like, I'd have to use Convoke regularly just to, like, oh no, one person's at 3/4 of their life. Like, that situation was one of those situations. And it's a character I geared during the anniversary event. And so they aren't like, they're like 350 something eye level doing at like level 70 something, right? Because back when we were doing that anniversary event, I was talking a lot about how there's no like progression position to sort of get yourself geared and get gear on your characters. So I'm having stuff drop from the time walking dungeons that's 200 item levels higher than the stuff that I'm wearing on my character and equipping that. And I have a full set of like 580 something sitting in his bag from the anniversary event waiting for him to hit level 80, which will be this week for sure, because I think he leveled, I think the 4 time walkings I ran, or the 5 time walkings I ran, I think I gained 6 levels out of those, or 4 levels. It was 4 levels out of those 5 time walkings. So it was very close to being max now, but it was one of those things where it felt like the scaling on my healing spells was pretty dramatic in how it affected it. Like, I'd have to spam regrowths to get someone's health from half to full. It would cast 3 to 4 regrowths to make that happen. Whereas in live game, it's like 2 at most of the time. Like, I can get a couple of hots on and do a regrowth, and the person's kind of snaps back up. So it feels very weird. And at level 77, 78, 79, I have like my full talent trees. I have the important part of my hero talents. Like, there's not like a huge missing piece to that puzzle. It's just item level, I think, or the scaling that's happening in there that they're doing with it. So it felt weird to heal those, because it just felt like I had to work harder than I should have to work to be able to keep people alive. But I wouldn't say that I was also struggling to keep people alive, because damage was trickling in at a good enough pace. No one was spiking down in health from damage or abilities, unless there was one person who just died because they just literally stood in fire and it just killed them. Like, that's nothing I can do with that, but
that's what it does. Usually,
there was like a big circle you shouldn't stand in. They stood in the big circle you shouldn't stand in. That hit them, and then there's fire that was left over in the big circle, and that killed them. And it was like, all right, well, I'm not going to heal you in 1.5 seconds if you're just standing in something. But anyways, the surprise to me was just that people were taking so much effort in order to just try and get someone back up in health that I was finding myself having to really cast constantly on healing, which was surprising. And again, I think it's that item level disparity, and there's something weird with like how it scales based off your character level and how it scales based off your item level, and that in combination with other people and how they're scaling. Maybe their health pools were inflated more than they should be, or like something else is happening there as far as those mechanics go. But it just felt weird to be like, yeah, I'm taking my druid into time walking, and then I'm feeling really weak in what I'm doing. Like, all of my spells felt like they didn't do very much, and like that's weird when you're inside that situation. So it didn't feel powerful, and I feel like characters should almost always feel powerful inside a healing role. So it's just an interesting thing to me.
Yeah, that is interesting, because I feel like from the perspective of like the speed you can move through the dungeon, the speed at which trash dies especially really doesn't feel much different, if any at all. You know, I feel like you can still just kind of zoom through, grab everything, drag it on top of a boss, even if you want to. Like, yeah, the boss is going to live a little bit longer, but yeah, I don't know. Fiddling around with the item level stuff is a little weird in there. So, but yeah, I was in a Shadowpan monastery, and we finished the second boss, so we're in the outdoor section where you're going to the Sha of Violence, where you have all those, you know, those minor Sha, and you have like the Sha-lings and stuff. Yeah. So this rogue that was in the group just stealths and runs ahead of the whole group, and is just sitting there in the Sha of Violence room waiting for us to clear this hallway. So I managed to sneak in a vote kick in between combats, and it actually passed because he was AFK'd, and so we got him out of there. The funny thing was, the spot never got autofilled. Like, they offered it. I guess there was one other person in queue who didn't accept it, and then it just didn't try to autofill. But we were moving so fast with the 4 people, I guess we didn't drop out of combat for long enough or something. It would have been nice to have that extra DPS, but we had somebody who was just doing literally nothing anyway. So I'm not going to clear the time walking dungeons for you. You know, I'd rather 4-man it with 3 other people who are actually contributing than somebody stealthed out waiting for us to kill trash for them. So
it's a very rogue-like thing to do. I'm just putting that out there. If that person was role-playing a rogue, they did a very good job at going, look, my class can just skip everything and just sit here and wait for you. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It was not appreciated. So that was my time walking for the week. You know, in terms of other stuff this week, again, we were back on one raid night, and we were nowhere close to, I shouldn't say nowhere, but, you know, we were 4-5 people short of a mythic raid on Tuesday or Wednesday. So Tuesday was just smash heroic, get our renown rank for the week, you know, just do the thing, hang out and have fun together. And then by Wednesday I had finished my vault, just doing 12s and 13s. I think everybody we played with is done with resilience, portals, all that stuff at this point. So it was just kind of, hey, what do we, you know, what's the quickest run, or what do we feel like doing, or whatever, just get the vault done. This might even be my last week of doing 8 keys for vault. Vault might start to become a 4 dungeon thing. We'll see. I think this week, with the holiday and everything coming up in the US, it'll probably just be, you know, whatever I can squeeze in on Tuesday night after raid. But I'm not, there's not much I'm chasing anymore anyway. So it's a very, like, I like doing dungeons and they're fun to do, but the returns are so diminished at this point. So, you know, we'll see what happens this week coming up. I did some delves on the warrior and druid. I just did 1 each, because you have to do the quest to get the upgrade item, which is, you know, important. I want that extra power. The monk is still fishing for an item, so I did the full slate of delves on the monk. What I've started doing is just doing like 2 a day, whichever ones are bountiful overcharged. And man, I'll tell you what, on 8s, those are like really fast and fun runs. Like, you get so much power from the console. I'm almost done with the console. I think I have 2 ranks left on the stamina thing, and then I'll be done with all the upgrades, and I'll get the mount, which is cool. you just zoom because you get so much power from that, and then you get the belt powering up. You get the thing where you get a damage buff when you take damage from the lightning traps. So then you're just like running into lightning traps every 5 seconds and just blasting everything down. So that's actually pretty fun. And I'm almost done with no, I think I'm actually done with Undercoin in terms of unique stuff you can buy, like
Really?
all the mogs and all that. So
Nice.
I'm just saving it for reagents for end of season at this point. Like, well, I'll use some to get keys on the monk and whatever because I'm still trying to get one last piece replaced. But yeah, with all the bonuses to Undercoin and all that, and the amount of delves I've done, I kind of got all that stuff out of the way. I remember to buy all the blueprints from Reno to customize the seasonal mount. There is an achievement tied to that. They don't cost very much. They cost resonant crystals and they're like cheap. I just hadn't done it. So I did that this week. I was back in Horrific Visions because I didn't have the Orgrimmar mounts.
Yeah.
So I went in there and I got the Wolf and I got the Wind Rider. I got the engine because I didn't have that part for the Death Cycle. So I got the Death Cycle. And so now the only mount I don't have from Horrific Visions is the jewel crafting one, the Panther. So I have a couple pieces for that. It's a little bit grindier, and you need a thing from Valera, I think, specifically. So I got to wait for Stormwind Rotate. I'll see if I can get it, this week coming up, and then I'll start grinding for the other things you need to collect.
Yeah, that was the mount that inspired my friends to poke me and be like, hey, you got to come do Horrific Visions with us on your Jewel Crafter so that you can learn the recipe so that we can get mounts. And I was like, oh, all right, well, how do we do this? So then, so that was the inspiration. I was very happy that they chose to, because it ended up meaning that I got all of the mounts from Horrific Visions. So I have all that done, which is great. But it was one of those things where, like we had to go in, run a bunch of Horrific Visions. It's a little bit more grindy to get all of the things that you want to get. And there is something off Valera, and there's a bunch of stuff out of there you have to get for it. And then if you are not a jewel crafter, you have to put in a work order for it. And then someone who actually is a jewel crafter who's gotten the recipe out of Orgrimmar, I believe, is able to then craft it for you through that work order. So it's neat. It's a neat mount. I really like it. It's very cool. And so I'm glad I got it.
It's the last one on my list. I think in order to start the process, you need to get the drop from Big Keech, who is the engineering guy in Orgrimmar.
That's it. Yeah.
There's like an orb that he drops, and if you don't have that in your inventory, then I don't think the other pieces drop, which is why I didn't have any progress on this, I guess. I had killed him before, but never got the orb to drop or got rid of it or something. I don't know. I'm not exactly sure what happened
often
there.
They go into your reagent bank or war bank. I think it's war bank.
Reagent, yeah.
So.
Oh yeah, it might be I might have more than one, but so yeah, I don't have the grindy bits yet. There's like 20 crystals you need to collect from end of run chests, and I'm wondering if I need to get the drop from Valera first. So we'll see what happens this week. It's funny now because like I was just in there this past week just spending as much time as possible, right? Because I have to turn over like all these different nooks and crannies to get the different things. Much different vibe to how Horrific Visions were when they were like content, where it was a speed run and you had to get the most out of every single time you went in there.
Right.
I'm just kind of hanging out looking for secrets, which is it was actually pretty fun to do. And staying on top of Dastardly Duos. This was a big week because you got the last couple rewards that are cool, like the turtle mount was available starting this week, and the staff transmog. So I think everything you can actually get is now in the game. There might be one other modifier for the toy or something, but you can get in there and do that if you haven't done it. Dastardly Duos is kind of whatever as a feature. I don't really particularly love it. The funny thing this week was there's an achievement that unlocks the ability to purchase the staff mog, and in order to get the achievement, you need to kill 8 unique bosses inside Dastardly Duos. They add 2 new bosses a week, so this week was the first week you could do it, and one of the bosses they added was Foe Reaper 5000 from Deadmines.
Right.
I did this twice, and I didn't get credit, even though I defeated Foe Reaper, and I'm not sure if it's because my AI companions like landed the killing blow or something, but
that would be really lame.
I did it a third time days later, and I did get credit for it. So I'm done like everything I care about with the mode. I might still keep up with the weeklies just because, but really like the turtle mount I think was the coolest reward anyway. I ended up finishing my third Goblin Cartel to Exalted this week, so I just have one left. The Darkview Solutions grind is absurd, so I won't be doing that, but might as well finish up the ones that you could do just with, doing quests and whatnot. So just hacking away at that, trying to get that done before the next big patch comes through. And also just doing a bunch of Firefest stuff, doing a Hoon every day, doing the dailies in Stormwind and to kill the different lieutenants and everything. As of today, I did buy all 3 new items. I got to 850 exactly after killing a Hoon today. So I got the 3 new items, which is really awesome. And I do want to point out, last week I was like, they removed the portal of Silithus or something. Like, you have to be in the modern phase in order for the portal in Borealis to show up, which I don't really remember that working that way in previous years. But I mean, it comes around once a year. I do it for, a week and a half. So my memory may not be the greatest, but I messed around with it this week, and it's like, okay, if I go to Silithus and I talk to the Bronze Dragon and I'm in the modern phase, then I can port back and forth. So what I have to do is leave it in the modern phase, then I can port out there. I can go talk to the Bronze Dragon, activate the past, do the quest, then change it back before I move on to the next zone. Because the loop I like to do is, I'll go to Outland and go to, Hellfire Peninsula. Then there's a portal there back to Stormwind. I take that to Borealis, to Silithus. Then I go up, northbound up the western coast of Kalimdor to Desolace, and then Darkshore, and then Hearth back, and then hit the 2 in Eastern Kingdoms. And I messed it up for myself until I discovered that, this portal is like phasing in and out based on how I have Silithus set. So if you're still working on that, keep that in mind if you want a fast loop from Stormwind anyway. But yeah, so I don't know. I think there's a couple items that I have, but they're still on the vendor. So I might do like another day or two just to test how some of these cosmetic items work. But the other thing to buy from there, once you have all this stuff, is the heirloom upgrades, which cost like 600 blossoms a piece, and they upgrade. Heirlooms still only go to 70, so I got like one more day probably tops of Firefest. I'll probably still do a Hoon every day because I got 2 of the 4 Mogs so far, so there's 2 other Mogs to collect. But Firefest is awesome. I think like you get a ton of currency for very little effort compared to some of the other holidays. So, it's something I've stayed on top of the last few years. Just like, all right, let me get in there, get my quest done, buy the new stuff. Okay, cool, I'm caught up.
Yeah, no, it's certainly one of the events that has a lot of rewards for folks to get in there and grab, and we'll chat about that and what's going on this week. For me, the last little bit of stuff top of show here before we hop into what's going on this week is my raid stuff last week. We did clear the raid again on Mythic, which was nice. First night was first boss plus last 3, and then we came back on Monday and got the rest of it. Definitely sort of a relearning curve on some of the bosses. It's one of those things where, obviously I had disconnect issues because I had power issues the week before, so this was really my first time going back through as a reclear. And I would say the boss that caught me the most off guard was Sprocket, as far as like, I didn't do it on my Druid. I did it on my Evoker when we were there. And I wasn't healing, I was DPSing. And so it was like different role, different class, boss that I haven't seen in a long time. Probably could have done a little bit better job prepping on it. So that was a surprising boss for me for figuring out the rest of it. But the rest of it felt very old hat, and I could sort of get through it, and it wasn't a big deal. It was just that one, oh yeah, right, kind of moment for Sprocket and being like, eh. So I have some prep I want to do tonight before raid, make sure that I actually have a refresher on some of the things that we're working on. I know that there's the other thing we're doing now is we're also lower healing a lot of these bosses. So there's a lot of like 2 healing happening and 3 healing happening for bosses that we were 4 or 5 healing before. So that is also one of those factors that sort of changes up how you sort of look and see these bosses. But I'm enjoying it. I still enjoy the clears on the raid and trying to get the few remaining pieces that I need from that raid before we move into the next season. And with all the raid testing happening, the prep has already started for all of these other bosses that are coming out. And there's already a lot of conversation happening about classes and what people should be taking and what's going to work and what's not going to work. And I will spare people from that because it changes so much and so quickly and so often that it doesn't really make sense to make recommendations now. But, down the line, we'll see where that stuff starts to settle out once we get closer and closer to the new season and the new raid and all that happens. But yeah. All right. Let's hop into what's going on this week in World of Warcraft. All right, this week is the Arena Skirmish bonus event going on, meaning that the Sign of the Skirmisher buff is up, increasing honor gains from Arena Skirmishes and wins by 50%. And actually, it's just Arena Skirmishes by 50%. So even if you lose, I think you're still getting a bonus to that for those skirmishes. You got to win 10 of them to get yourself some conquest and honor. The Turbulent Timeways continue. This week is going to be Burning Crusade Time Walking, meaning the Sign of the Twisting Nether buff is up, increasing Burning Crusade reputation gains from combat and quest by 50%. And there are time walking versions of Blood Furnace, Botanica, Magister's Terrace, Mana Tombs, Shattered Halls, and Underbog. So if you are someone who wants to get yourself some 610 eye level gear, which is what drops out of there, or buy some 587 off the vendor, or get you some mounts or transmog or pets or that kind of stuff off the vendor, you can get in there and run your time walking for the week. You complete 5 of these, you get yourself a cache of heroic Liberation of Undermined gear. And as well, because it is Burning Crusade time walking, there is also the Black Temple raid that you can go back and do, where groups of 10 to 30 players can get 636 eye level drops, which are upgradable. They're on the upgrade track for max level characters who participate in it. And this is also your way for someone who may have the Warglaze of Azeroth to unlock the transmog for the Warglaze of Azeroth if you get in there and kill Illidan during the time walking week. So this is also a way to get, if you pick up the quest in Shattrath, you can get a cache of heroic heroic Burning Crusade raid gear out of that cache as well. So it's a week where you can get basically multiple heroic drops if you're participating in the time walking events. So certainly an attractive week for folks who have a character they're trying to gear up still. And if you run 4 of these, because of Turbulent Timeways, you will then get the Timeways buff, and that buff will count towards having 5 of those buffs to be able to actually get the mount at the end of all of this thing. And I think this is now like beyond, we're past it now, right, Jason? You can't, there's not 5 weeks left.
I don't think so. If you didn't start it by this week, I'm not sure if you can finish it.
Yeah.
I don't have the calendar in front of me for how much longer Timeways runs, so I'm not sure. But yeah, you have to check it out. Hopefully you started it. If not, if that's what you care about, then give it a look and make sure. I guess one thing I noticed, and it's probably been this way, I just don't really look. The Timeways mounts from previous events are on the vendor. They cost like 5,000 badges or something, but it's not like this will be going forever if you don't do it this way.
This is the last week. If you participate this week, and the following 4 weeks after this week, you will be able to get your mount. It is not too late. Do Burning Crusade time walking, then do Warlords of Draenor.
If you didn't start, yeah.
Then do Legion, then do Classic, then do BFA the last time, and then you'll have your 5. So this is your week. If you have not done 4, do 4 of these on a character. If that's a character you don't play often, that's actually better for you, because it means you just have to do 1 every week after this week to be able to get this Pirate Dragon mount reward. So yeah, sorry, I know I interrupted, but I wanted to get that critical information in there of, yes, this is the last week that you can, you'll need to be able to start on this, because you need to do 5 weeks. Not in a row, just 5 weeks in general. If you did the first week and you didn't do the second week, you can still just do 4 other weeks and you're good. But if you have not started yet, start this week and be able to get that done. So it's major.
Really good week for some easy heroic caches, right?
Yeah.
Because if the killing raid bosses does count towards it counts towards a weekly time walking event. You can either kill 5 Black Temple bosses or do 5 dungeons. So and a lot of times people will have just like open IDs at Illidan too. Because I think the quest, like the raid quest, is just to kill Illidan. So you could probably check out Group Finder and find groups that are just running people through that way too. That's 2 guaranteed heroic pieces of loot. You don't get to pick what they are, but if you have no heroic gear, then there might be some nice upgrades, and it's pretty easy stuff to do. So really good week for that. Keep it in mind. And yeah, if you want to get the Pirate Dragon, make sure that you are in process with stacking your weekly buff up at this point.
Yeah.
The BC dungeons, like these are pretty good runs. I mean, I haven't done them with the new tuning and everything, but again, in terms of like the overall time spent, I don't think it's changed that dramatically, and most of these are pretty fast. So it should be, if that's what you want to do, you're looking to gear up like a character or something, or are you just trying to get through for the meta reward around the event? Like this week would be good. I do enjoy revisiting these dungeons when BC comes back around.
There are some of these I enjoy revisiting when it comes. Botanica, I could just do without. I just don't like Botanica as a dungeon.
Yeah, that one's not great.
It's the weakest of the three that were out there, which is the unfortunate thing for that. The Blood Furnace is the other one that kind of, it's okay. It's not, I don't hate it. It's fine.
I like Blood Furnace. Yeah. I think that's a good one. Yeah.
Blood Furnace is all right. Mana Tombs, I think is a good dungeon. Shattered Hall is a great dungeon. Underbog is a pretty good dungeon. Like, it's not terrible at all. It's a good representation of that zone when we were doing it. And then Magister's Terrace is just a classic. Like, you need to see Magister's Terrace at some point in your life. It's
one
good.
of the best ever, really. Yeah. I mean, and 2.4, just one of the best patches ever, and that's where Magister's Terrace came in. And it's a pretty nice pool. I agree that Botanica is probably the worst in the set. Just rotate Mekanar in.
I agree.
Mekanar never had its day.
Everyone would love Mekanar. Yeah. It is so fast. It's a so
3-bosser. It's fast. It's got some cool theming, cool enemies to fight. It does have that like gauntlet hallway before last boss, which those things can be kind of annoying, but whatever. Yeah, like just give Mekanar its day in the sun and swap it for Botanica and then leave the rest of the pool alone.
Yeah, pretty much. All right. As far as other things for this week, you want to be sure you're doing your Undermine weeklies, so at least go in there and choose a faction for you to be supporting if you're going to be doing one of those, world quests or things down there this week. Of course, there's also the Urge to Surge many jobs, handle it, and reduce, reuse, resell that you can pick up as quests to complete for the week out of Undermine. This week is the Delves Weekly from Brand, so if you're someone who's a little bit behind on your weekly stuff, you can do some Delves with Brand this week and get yourself some of the other quest stuff done and some overcharged Delve benefits that are sort of like overlapping with Delves Week. So be sure you're participating in that and taking care of that. Deep 6 is our PvP brawl. That is the 6v6 Warsong Gulch, Silver Shard Mines, and Temple of Kot Magoo. I really enjoy Deep 6 with Temple of Kot Magoo because I like that particular battleground in general, and when you can kind of get a more tight team together, it can feel a little bit less like it spirals out of control, which I enjoy a lot. Warsong Gulch, also kind of fun to do in a smaller group. Silver Shard Mines is good. It's just you end up having to break off into so many small groups. It just doesn't. It's a weird one to do that with because you're not like really working towards one objective. You're working towards multiple objectives at the same time, and how you use those resources is important. So it's a little odd, but in general, it's an interesting brawl to sort of see these see these battlegrounds with a more limited pool of people. So if you're wanting to check that out, feel free to check out Deep 6. It's a decent brawl week for that. Get yourself some Marks of Honor, Conquest, and Honor from winning one of those.
Last week was what if there were too many people in an arena? Yeah. This week is what if there weren't enough people in a battleground?
Yeah.
So that's what we're doing here. I think Silver Shard is actually really cool this way, except it doesn't change enough, right? Like the map itself should be just smaller. You have fewer carts going, which is kind of cool, but the map is the same size. And that's true of all three of these, but so it is a little awkward because it's just not, you don't have enough players to cover all of the map, or you're not using all the map. So it would be maybe better if they had some way to change the geometry where you could funnel people in a bit more,
or give everyone a speed buff. Just give everyone a speed buff would be the easiest way to do it.
Ooh, that'd be cool.
Right, everyone gets a 30% movement speed increase, and just like all the time, just running around in there, and in all of these, right? Where it's just like, okay, so it's like the brawl, the Deep 6 is brawls, but everyone has speed boosts, so everyone just tears around the place as a smaller group of people. So I don't know. I think they could spice these up just a little bit more than they currently are to, let stuff be a little bit more wild and crazy. And I think that would be a fun way to take care of that problem without trying to shrink or move stuff around on a map. So yeah. All right, World Boss this week. Obviously, the Godfather you want to get out there and knock out. This is your chance to get some Warbound loot for the week. That 642 eye level Warbound loot drops once on your account, so you don't have to kill it multiple times, but always obviously worth doing each week, especially for someone who has alts. because it's just a nice piece of gear to sort of have banked up for when your ult hits max level. So keep that in mind. And then Orda, the Broken Mountain, the big deep walking giant inside Ashkahet, is the world boss that's up for folks who are still trying to get an achievement, or they're trying to complete their what is it called again? The sharp, oh my god, I can't remember the disc fragments. That's it. That's what I was thinking of. Titan disc fragments. Those folks who are trying to still get the Titan disc fragments, that's another great way to get 50 of them, is just knocking out Orda. And not too hard to do. Mythic Plus affixes for the week. This is a Pulsar week. We are no longer trusting the website that we were pulling information from for Mythic Plus stuff, because it kept being wrong and not being updated until after Tuesday's reset had happened and people had started running Mythic Plus, which is not super useful for folks who are trying to report about what's going to be happening in the next week. So Jason is back to doing manual math on spreadsheets and things to try and keep track of which week it is for Mythic Plus. So this should be Pulsar week, where crystals spawn and move around players while in combat, and it is the other player's responsibility to try and pick up their friend's crystal off of them. And this is a buff that gives you mastery and leech for each of the crystals that you pick up. So you get yourself 20% mastery and 10% leech if you gather all of these. And if you don't gather them, then it makes mobs do 10% more damage and reduce the damage they take by 20%. And that is a stacking buff. So if you miss multiple of these orbs, you're gonna feel it in your Mythic Plus. In general, with the exception of bosses like the last boss of Rookery that makes you sort of spread out as a group, this is a pretty easy one to manage on a regular basis. So I'm not super worried about Pulsar. I think a lot of people will enjoy getting in there and doing Pulsar stuff. And I know we just talked about it recently, so we don't need to recap too much of it. But yeah, Pulsar week is one of the easier weeks. It's an okay buff. And as long as you're paying attention to, hey, we had to spread out for this boss, it's not so bad to manage.
Yeah. This should be the rotation for this week. We'll see. It's been a real challenge this season trying to keep it straight for some reason. But like this past week was Ascendant Tyrannical, which is the top of the order, so to speak, to borrow a baseballism, my guess. That was the week one was Ascendant Tyrannical, which is what we have live now, which means that the next week after that should be Pulsar Fortified. I think Pulsar is fine. It's relatively easy to manage. There are times where, it might be a little bit tougher. And if you get like 80% of the orbs, then that's probably good enough versus exposing yourself to something really dangerous that might just straight up kill you. We're early in the process for PTR, but like we haven't heard anything about any planned changes to affixes for season 3. So yeah. I wonder if these will all just basically carry forward, at least in terms of like overall design. Maybe tuning stuff changes here and there, but before War Within came out and before Undermined came out, they got way out in front of the discussion about Mythic Plus and how affixes were going to be and what their kind of goals were for the system. We haven't had that yet this time, so I'm wondering if they're just kind of happy with where it landed. I think overall the pool is pretty good. I think it's pretty fair for players, and everybody's pretty used to it at this point. So I think it would probably be good if they didn't make any massive changes to the overall design of these for the rest of the expansion. But we'll see. Obviously, if we get blue text about it, about stuff coming to PTR, we'll get into it. But I think if they just roll with these for season 3, I wouldn't really complain.
Outside of that, we got Midsummer Fire Festival currently running, as we talked about top of show. That runs until July 5th. So if you're someone who is still trying to gather up the last of your fragments and whatnot, your blossoms, your burning blossoms, then this is your last few days to be able to do that. So be sure you're taking part in the daily activities to try and earn the new rewards. For those who are curious, the rewards that are new this year is the holiday vendor is selling grand versions of the helm, mantle, and belt, so you can pick up those transmogs. There's also some new cosmetics off of Frostlord Ahun with a bunch of different scythes and staves for you to be able to pick from. Or so it's pole arms and staves for you to be able to pick from, as well as a crown of the Frostlord helm that you can actually get. And then there is some titles, I believe, the Flame Keeper of the... Oh, wait, no, it's just new achievements. That's what it is, for honoring the Horde and Alliance in the new spaces, in Ashkahet, Hollowfall, Isle of Dorn and Ringing Deeps. You get the Flame Keeper of Khazulgar and the Flame Warden of Khazulgar. So yeah, if you're someone who's looking to get some of the new stuff, be sure you're taking part in some of the last remaining days. When we look at...
and if you're behind, I was going to say, like, if you're behind on stuff, if there's stuff you want, keep in mind from the dailies, you get 60 from the ones that go around and kill the lieutenants. That you get that every day. You get another 10 from the city quest for torch tossing and torch casting, and then you get like 5 to 15 from Ahun. But then also you get blossoms from every bonfire that you honor or extinguish. And there's a lot of them at this point in the game. So if you haven't done like a full loop, if there's something really that's on your list and you're behind, if you have time to put in this week and just kind of fly around, you get like semi AFK it, right? Because they're all kind of near flight paths and stuff usually. And you can just go around and do these. And you get, I guess is it 15 or 20 per zone if there's a Horde and Alliance bonfire in the zone. So that adds up pretty fast. If there's something specific you want that the dailies are not going to afford you with by the end of the week, just keep that in mind. There is a grind you can do if you so choose to catch up on some blossoms.
And for those of us who are celebrating Canada Day on Tuesday, they are preparing a fireworks spectacular on July 4th, which will be taking place. Just kidding. Yes, there is a July 4th celebration taking place. The fireworks spectacular that happens sort of like in every year for the midsummer stuff. You head down to Booty Bay or any of the capital cities and watch. Booty Bay is really the place to watch. You go up on the rooftops and sit out and watch the fireworks show. It is pretty awesome every year to do. So be sure you are getting in for the fireworks spectacular on the 4th. On the 1st, on Canada Day itself, the Greedy Emissary and the Collector's Bounty will kick off. That's going to be happening on the 1st, so be sure you are watching for that. We'll talk a little bit more about Greedy Emissary stuff in a second here, but just be aware that that's starting on the 1st. It's going to run for the whole month of July, so that'll be something to check out. And along with that being the top of the month, we also have a Darkmoon Faire that's going to be happening before we record next, because it's going to be kicking off on July 6th and running to the 12th. So there's got a busy week ahead. Firefest wrapping up, Greedy Emissary kicking off on the 1st, Fireworks Spectacular on the 4th, Darkmoon Faire on the 6th. So busy week for different events taking place there. Darkmoon Faire, obviously a place for you to get those skill ups for your, the extra knowledge points for your, and skill ups, I guess, for professions. And if you're someone who's already maxed out your profession stuff, it will start contributing towards earlier expansions. So if you're someone who did not max out stuff in earlier expansions, you will get skill points towards those. It always is viable, which I love. So if you're someone who just regularly does it, you might be like, oh, I'm getting Cataclysm Cooking. This is excellent. All right, Cataclysm Cooking is getting some skill ups. Cool. I mean, there might be a secret hunters thing that takes place where you need to have Cataclysm Cooking, and now you have some. So who knows? It's always a fun thing to do and get that knocked out. And for those completionists out there, easy to do it. Plus, obviously, the reputation experience gains, the Darkmoon Faire tickets towards getting your dirigible, the races you can participate in for achievements, the Dance sort of revolution stuff you can do for achievements as well, and all sorts of things you can do there. So head on down to the Darkmoon Faire and ride that Griffin. All right, when it comes to the actual Greedy Emissary stuff, I want to be sure we covered this in here right after that, because it's a bit of a blog post. We got like the official blog post for Greedy Emissary and what's happening with Greedy Emissary for folks who are interested in this. So they're bringing back the Greedy Emissary event, and this is going to be happening at 8 a.m. Pacific time on the 1st. So this is after reset, basically, for those folks that are in NA. And this is going to be in Stormwind, Orgrimmar, Dornogal, and Undermine for you to participate, which I actually really like, because it's easy to get from to Stormwind or to Orgrimmar or to Dornogal or to Undermine. Those are all like key locations that have teleports to get to, which I really enjoy. So if you get to Dornogal, you can always take the teleporter down to Undermine. And if you're in Dornogal, you can get to Stormwind or Orgrimmar. So I like this. The currency is Hellstone Shards, and you're going to be earning them during the Greedy Emissary event. And during the event, you'll also encounter these deviously greedy treasure goblins in Stormwind, Orgrimmar, Dornogal, and Undermine for rewards, including the Inarius' Charger mount that's going to be coming in. The Collector's Bounty buff is going to be going out as well, so that Alongside this, foes in legacy dungeons and raids find themselves overloaded with extra treasure. You can defeat them and collect their bountiful rewards for you and your warband. And this is also kicking off, obviously, at that reset. And so this is the higher drop chance and higher amount of drops that come in from those legacy things. So for folks that are actually wanting to get mounts that they have been farming for a long time, this is like your best chance to get it. So like, keep in mind, if you've been on the hunt for these rewards, the following drop rates have been increased by 10 times, and in one case 25 times, to increase your chance for transmog drops in this legacy content. So they say that all pre-Dragonflight legacy mounts from legacy dungeons and raids increased. The Eye of Sulphurus increased. Golden Hearthstone card from Nighthold increased. The Bindings of the Windseeker from Molten Core increased. Warglaze of Azzinoth increased. And that's happening during Time Walking week for Warglaze of Azzinoth. I'm saying, if you farm Black Temple this week and you get them, you can go and do Time Walking Black Temple and have the transmog all in the same week. How wild would that be? Thoradal, the Star's Fury, Sunwell Plateau also increased, and they also made it so that some exclusions apply for this, so that all time walking content is excluded for pets and toys and that kind of stuff. So you can't just chain run time walking and expect to get higher drop chances on those things. You have to run the legacy content to do that, so just keep that in mind. And the Collector's Bounty buff is active by default. You can visit an innkeeper in capital cities in Dalaran to turn it off or on again if something happens with it. If you're someone who's like, hey, you know what, I want to earn this the non-buff way, sure. If that's something that makes you enjoy your game more, then by all means, you can turn it off. But if you need to turn it off and on again, you can visit any innkeeper to do that. In general, though, for those mount and pet farmers and toy farmers and transmog farmers that are out there, this is your moment. You'll have this for a month. You can spend a month farming this stuff and have a substantially increased chance to get this stuff. So keep that in mind. So yeah, that's
that should be really good for mog farming, hopefully for mounts as well. And yeah, some of these key items, you know, legendary starters and stuff like that. That's pretty cool. This is the first like concrete details we've gotten about it, and even at that, like they're still being kind of cagey about what some of this actually means, but it's good to have some details about it and to know, and maybe they kind of give you a bit of a checklist here, like, hey, here's some stuff. If you don't have it, if you care about it, you might want to go, you know, make it a point to get into Molten Core and Nighthold and Sunwell Plateau. It made me immediately think, well, geez, what should I do? Like, how should I approach this? I should do something. I should take advantage of this. So I got to figure out what I want to do.
Get your Invincible Reigns or something. Yeah.
Right, yeah, it might be a really good chance just to round out transmog sets. I mean, I think on the Warrior, I'm pretty well caught up from legacy content. Maybe not. I have to go look, and you know, on some other classes, I have basically nothing. Plus, you know, we live in the warband era where anything you collect, your warband can use. So that's really good. The fact that it excludes toys is kind of heartbreaking. I don't know why they did that, but you know, there you have it. I think pets are not that big of a deal because I feel like the pet drop rate is okay. Like if you do a raid regularly for Mog or whatever, you probably walk out with more pets than you can even hold. But the toys, you know, there's some kind of rare drop toys that would be really nice if they would have included with this buff. But there you have it. So yeah, have a game plan. My thought here though is, are people going to crash into the instance limit, right? Like if you're doing a ton of this stuff, raids are pretty big, I guess. So like it takes a while to get through them, but you know, I wonder if they might have to, you know, up the instance limit or something while this is going on, because part of the deal is, you know, going into a whole bunch of different raids and dungeons and farming stuff out quickly for drop chances. So we'll see. I don't think it'll be a problem for me because I don't think I'll be doing it that much or with that much regularity where I'm like crashing into the instance limit. But it was something that I thought of because they don't say anything about it, but it'll probably be fine for most players.
If people put together their full speed sets, I could see there being some, you know, concerns about like, I'm moving at 40% increased movement speed all the time. So yeah, I tear through some of these larger raids pretty quickly to be able to get stuff. It might be a problem, like you said. We'll wait and see what sort of community feedback's like around it. I imagine you'll be pretty fine though most of the time. Okay, portals aplenty. So portals will spawn every 60 minutes on the hour, and an icon for the portal location will appear in Stormwind, Orgrimmar, or Donegal as the zones that they can appear in. And they actually tell you where. The portals spawn in the southeastern city exit after the target dummy area in Donegal, and the portals spawn outside the gate for the entrance gate in Orgrimmar, and the portal spawn by the docks in Stormwind. So you'll know where those portals are based off of a big icon on your map, and you head on down there and you kill yourself a goblin and get yourself some loot. The portals themselves are the things that spawn the goblins, and you DPS them and loot them. That's like, there's not like a huge complicated factor to that. You DPS them and loot them, and you can get you can actually, what's this about affixes? So here's the treasure golem affixes and elixirs. Treasure golems are now more dangerous now, and carry more affixes from their world. So icons on top of both the summoning portals and the treasure goblins itself will indicate what affixes the treasure golems currently have applied. You can customize what affixes a treasure goblin will have by tossing special elixirs on the goblin summoning portal. But beware, adding more affixes to a portal will increase the number of goblins that can spawn. And they have different elixirs. So they have an arcane elixir, which spawns arcane overlords and inflicting arcane damage to enemies in the area. So if there's no enemies within a certain distance, it does a huge AoE amount of damage from that. You got blistering elixir, we got connected elixir, cursing elixir, deafening elixir, explosive elixir, healthy elixir, magma elixir, rallying elixir, rich elixir. Then they have ones for they have storming, tempestuous, trapper, and wind force. They have a lot of elixirs here that you can throw on stuff, and they do pretty wild things. Like occasionally spawns fallen and a fallen shaman. So if you don't DPS the fallen shaman, he's going to keep resurrecting the fallen. You got to keep that in mind too. That's going to keep happening. Occasionally spawn hordes of demonic bovines. You can get cows to spawn in and start attacking people inside World of Warcraft. It's crazy crossover they're doing there. You can spawn health globes that heal players who step on them from the healthy buff elixir that's out there. The spawns goblin zapper traps, which deal a large amount of damage to people's max health for people who step on them. Tempestuous elixir is the ones that pulls enemies to the goblin itself, sort of like the affix from Diablo 4 itself, where it actually sucks people in. You can spawn pools of lightning that deal damage to enemies who step in them. There's a lot of these here. They're all sort of pulled from obviously the Diablo theme, because that's what you'd be expecting, but some pretty neat stuff in there for you to actually be checking out. And of course, you're doing all this for different rewards, and you can earn Hellstone shards from the Hellcaller chest dropped by the treasure goblins. And completing activities during the greedy event, then you can exchange them at the Hellhunter Baranar located in the foreground of Donegal. You get hellish armor sets and other goodies. The first 10 Hellcaller chests weekly across your warband will always yield Hellstone shards. Hellcaller chests can also contain Valor stones and other worldly items. And this is your chance to get classic recolors of tier 2 armor sets for your characters. So, man, they amped up the event with these potions you throw on portals, that's for sure, because that's going to make it kind of wild for folks. I imagine every potion will be on every portal for a little while as everyone just unloads their potions into them. But it just means more rewards, right? It just, as long as you got the people there to actually handle the craziness that you've just inflicted on yourselves, you're going to get some pretty nice rewards. So, cool event. I mean, I'm looking forward to participating in this and getting the rewards of it. I definitely want these recolors because they look wicked in a lot of cases. So tier 2, hard to go wrong with when it's coming to rewards.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the Wrath recolor, the warrior set looks so good. I'm zooming right in on that. Yeah, I don't know about the affixes. I don't know how much more we need to pump up the treasure goblin thing, but I don't know. Maybe it'll be fun. I'm sure it won't be some mega challenging thing. The Undermine thing seems pretty interesting. It seems like Undermine might be the place you really want to hang out if you're trying to either max out this event, or you want to get your 10 chests for your guaranteed shards as fast as you can. Because, I mean, I don't know what the rate is on the portal spawning from killing Undermine rares, but if it's decent, I mean, there might be portals up quite a bit. Plus, then, outside of the hourly spawn, you get the quarter hour portal storms and all that. Plus, they're going to be in the raid. Like, obviously, interest in the raid is waning. I don't know that, this is really going to influence people. Like, oh, I got to get in there and do the raid. But
yeah, I might have missed mentioning. I want to be sure that this was mentioned, just so it's clear. Yes, killing Undermined Rares has a chance to trigger portal spawns for treasure goblins, which is what Jason's excited about.
Which seems really cool. I mean,
cool.
We'll see what the spawn rate is like. It might be a low chance, but like, imagine you're just in Undermine doing your thing, and there's a treasure goblin popping up every like 3 or 4 minutes. Like, that would be awesome.
And it's the same thing in the raid. When you defeat certain bosses, there's a chance to trigger a portal spawn with a treasure goblin popping out. So when you're going through raid after Tuesday, you might just have some treasure goblins you have to defeat right away, which might throw some people off. Hopefully there's no bosses where, there's one person left alive and then the treasure goblin spawns and kills the one person left alive. That would be really unfortunate. So,
Dude, what if they spawn off of killing ads on boss fights?
Oh, man.
Like, oh, you're about to kill Muggsy, but then a treasure goblin spawned off the, whatever they're called, the rock elemental things, and then everything just blew up right at the end of the fight. I would have to actually respect that. That would be pretty funny. But yeah, like incorporating in the raid seems really fun, especially at this point in a raid this old at this point by modern WoW standards. Something to spice it up and just give people like a little extra bonus for showing up to do a raid seems really cool.
Yeah, no, I love the idea of incorporating more into that. It does just keep things more spiced up, and this is what we're talking about with the .7 patch and sort of trickle feeding in these sorts of neat things to keep it interesting and going on while they have all the new stuff that's in the works. And speaking of the new stuff, Ghost of Koresh development notes. There's some user interface and accessibility updates going in that then spawned a feedback thread. Go figure. So spell density features have been revamped in Ghost of Koresh to increase visual clarity of combat and encounters by reducing spells visual effects that do not communicate important combat information to the player, in addition to reducing visuals based on frame rate to improve performance. The reduced settings should meet most players' needs for improving visibility of encounter mechanics and performance, and essentially will provide the strongest performance based on the reduction for players who need it. So in other words, you can turn down how much other players' spell effects show up on your screen. That is what they're putting in. They're going to put in a feature. Right now we have emphasized spell effects, which makes your spells more prominent than other people's spells. They're going to allow you to now turn down other people's spells even more. This is one for, let's say, a fight like Sprocket, where the boss itself has like 4 overlapping spell effects that happen at any given point. You will then be able to turn off, all of the mage's orbs of frost and all of the, novas and flash of light sort of blinding stuff that's happening and whatnot. Like all that, you can tone all that down so that you're not seeing all those visuals. You can focus more on the boss visuals. I'm going to read through the feedback thread before we commentate on that, I think. So, all right. Feedback-wise, this week's Ghost of Koresh PTR includes changes and improvements to the spell density graphic settings. The spell density system is designed with a focus on improving players' visibility of important information in combat so that players can better see and respond to combat mechanics. The new system provides designers and artists with improved controls over which visual spells get displayed and how, so that there can be a reduction of visuals that do not convey useful information to the player about the state of combat. How it works. Spell density systems can only alter spell visuals initiated by players in your party or raid, and can either skip a visual entirely or cause it to be rendered in a less visible way. So more transparent, smaller, or in just entirely different visual that's going to be taking place. There are situations in which spell density systems will never alter visuals, so you and your pet's spells and visuals will always be displayed at full intensity, regardless of spell density settings. The NPC spells and abilities will always be displayed at full intensity. Enemy player spells and abilities will always be displayed at full intensity. This is subject to change in future iterations of spell density. We recognize PvP combat has different criteria for which visuals are important for combat making or decision making. So it looks like they're tweaking some stuff still with enemy player situation, but for now it's full density that you're expecting. In this week's new PTR build, there are 3 new spell density options: everything, reduced, and essential. Everything, as the name states, causes all visuals to be rendered in full intensity. Reduced and Essential activate different levels of spell density system. Reduced is tuned for what we consider to be ideal for dungeon and raid content. Essential is for players who need the most reduction possible while still retaining WoW's iconic combat look and feel. We plan to continually update and iterate on this system throughout the Ghosts of Koresh PTR and for the foreseeable future. Your feedback is highly valuable. Please test this new system in your content of choice and leave feedback. Please note the type of content you were in, which settings of spell densities things were set to, and any specific spells or visuals that are relevant. Thank you very much. So this is, in my opinion, absolutely critically needed in a lot of ways. I love the idea of honestly running Essential for a lot of boss fights where there's going to be a lot of spell visuals happening and it's really just about not standing in something and moving out of something. If turning it to Essential means that you see all of the boss mechanics you need to see, you're not seeing a lot of like flying fireballs and frostbolts, and here's the biggest one for a lot of people: dragons flying overhead and bombarding things. The amount of people who get nervous or worried or are thrown off by like having either the wyverns from a hunter or having a dragons from evokers fly in and do things is actually a lot. There's a lot of people who are like, I totally thought there was an ability happening, or I need to dodge something, or someone was out of place, or mirror images going down from mages and then thinking the mage is standing in something that they shouldn't be standing in when it's not, it's just their images. All those things happen very frequently. And so turning that down so that all those distractions are away for me would be a very nice sort of way to play the game, as long as it still feels, like a fun game to play. Reduced seems like it's like, all right, we understand you want to turn stuff down, but we want this still to feel like World of Warcraft. So you should see when a mage is throwing a fireball or where something else is happening, right? You should still have that look and feel of playing World of Warcraft. So that's why they introduced Reduced. Everything is what we basically currently have. So if what we currently have is too much, then you might want one of the other two options. So I love that this is an option they're playing with. I'm very happy about that, and I think it's good that the devs have become more and more aware that legibility is really important for players when they're designing these systems and these raid mechanics, and that this past raid suffered a lot from legibility, even though they were enhancing a lot of these spell effects themselves to make circles easier to see and whatnot. There are still bosses like Sprocket where you're like, okay, you have drills that are going out while you have people blowing up mines, while you have a conveyor belt that's moving your character, while you have laser beams that you have to be dodging, while you have orbs that are bouncing around the room. And you're like, wow, okay, that's a lot happening with 20 people also casting spells at the same time inside a cluster together of 10 yards standing next to the boss, right? Like, that is a lot happening. And it is overstimulating to a certain degree. So, to tone a lot of that back down and just see the essential stuff, I think would be nice for a lot of fights like that. And I can see people switching stuff up based off which fight they're doing. Like maybe you just run on Reduced all the time and then you pick a boss that you turn it down to essential for. Who knows? So we'll see where this goes, but I'm excited about this sort of feature coming in for the game.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like hero talents also have contributed to this kind of a bit, right? Because a lot of hero talents and stuff have kind of flashy visuals, which are cool, and it's nice when they bring that stuff in. But yeah, like what is the evoker one? Scale Commander or something that puts the giant red circle in the ground? That does not look like anything good that you're supposed to be standing in. So I found myself moving out of that quite a bit. Yeah, and I think they've done great stuff with making enemy spells read better, but also when you're standing on a pile of stuff that your party members are dropping everywhere, that can be really confusing. I think of I've had some times where like I did Motherload, let's say, with like 2 Ret Pallies, and they're dropping consecrates all over the part before third boss where you have the masterminds that drop the yellow stuff on the ground that moves around. Like, it's not very visually distinct, right? And like, I don't really need to know where a paladin's consecrate is necessarily. Like, obviously, as a tank, you want to park mobs inside everybody's AoE, but also you have to move out of hazard. So if I have to move out of a hazard because somebody's AoE is there, well, I'm sorry, but we have to set up somewhere else. So hopefully, like, Reduced is enough that you get an idea of sort of what your teammates are doing just by looking at spell effects, but doesn't clog up what you need to know about positioning and stuff like that. I'm definitely toggling this on right away, and I'm going to see, how it looks and feels. Essential seems like it's more for like performance concerns specifically, just to help out people who are on lower end systems or something. I feel like that might not be enough information for me at a certain point, but I don't know. I guess I would try it. I think it's really cool that they're doing something like this, and I mean, the game's graphics have improved significantly over the years. It goes without saying. And also, they want to make stuff look cool and flashy and bombastic. But it's cool if it's your thing. But if it's somebody else in your party's thing, even if it looks cool, it might be stepping on some other visual information that you need more desperately than, oh, hey, so and so just did like a cool thing. So
yeah.
This is all part of just the ongoing UI overhaul and more customization and everything. The game kind of desperately, I think, needed for a really long time. It took them way too long to start down this road, but they have been ticking a lot of stuff off the list over the last, I would say, about 3 years or so since Dragonflight pre-patch, I think, is where they really started making this a priority. And, we've seen consistent updates in this area in terms of, user interface, accessibility, performance, stuff like that. So I didn't think that we'd be getting something like this with this patch when we saw it come through in this build, but I'm looking forward to it. I definitely want to run with reduced and see if I can just get a better read for like what is good, bad, important near my character so that I can kind of set up in combat. I definitely have had issues with that even in this patch, just because of because of friendly spell effects. They're very loud. So looking forward to being able to customize it.
Completely agree. All right, July Trading Post is going to be kicking off here in just a couple of days. So there is a new chunk of rewards to earn, and there's actually a bit of a twist on how to earn them this time. This month, they've extended the bar with 3 new Forsaken-themed rewards for you to actually earn. So at 600 points, you'll earn the Forsaken's Grotesque Cauldron. At 1,000 points, you're getting the Forsaken's Grotesque Ensemble. And at 1,400 points, you'll get the Forsaken's Grotesque Charger. So they are breaking up how some of these rewards work, where you can consider them 3 monthly rewards if you want to. And you earn these rewards as you go, as far as earning points go. So there's some extra motivation to get in there and actually get up to that 1,400 to get the full collection of Forsaken stuff that they're going to be putting out. But the rewards themselves are pretty cool. They have the unarmored Death Tusk Fellbore kicking in here, which is the reward that you can actually end up earning for a mount if you choose to spend some tender on that. It looks like it's coming in at 325 for that. They then have the Wailing Banshee's Charger and Bulb, the pet. So that alone is looking at 1,400 points right there. Like that is 1,400 points right there for you to spend tender-wise. Then have the Plum sweatsuit that you can earn, as well as the Lively, which is green sweatsuit. If you're someone who wants to look like you are just having a laundry day, kind of relax around the house day in World of Warcraft, which, hey, housing-wise, maybe there's a housing transmog happening here. Maybe that's what we're sort of looking at for what people are going to be wearing. So keep that in mind. They've put in some weapons. They have the Wailing Banshee's one-handed mace, as well as the Forsaken's Grotesque Wand. What's interesting to me about this wand is it looks like, as opposed to casting a little like fireball or a little frostbolt when you swing the wand, there's a skull in front of the cast. I'm wondering if this thing shoots green skulls at things, because that's pretty cool as a transmog if you could do that. You don't wand things all that often, but it might be neat for that character that you're leveling and whatnot to actually be wanding skulls at things.
You might have to start wanding things if this thing shoots like ghostly green skulls at your target. Yeah, it's a really that is what it looks like from the screenshot that they gave us. Obviously, we can't see this in game right now because it's still June as we're recording this. But the weapons look really cool. Yeah.
The Wailing Banshee's maces are essentially that like typical Banshee face that's been cracked and broken on maces. They're very neat looking, so certainly also worthwhile. They also have the Wailing Banshee's longbow, so if you're someone who wanted a fancy purple bow, you can get one of those. And the Forsaken's Grotesque Great Blade. So if you're someone who just wants a really big green glowing sword to smack things with, they have that for you. The cauldron that you earn early on, the 600 point cauldron, is actually one you wear on your back It's a back piece that's like a bubbling, cauldron that you can wear around with you. So maybe those alchemists out there might want a transmog that, suits them as far as having a grotesque little floating cauldron on their back. That's something you're wanting to do. But the set itself, honestly, the Forsaken's Grotesque collection looks really cool. It's a very neat transmog. It is ghostly. It is green. It's got all sorts of glowing effects on it. It's just a neat look. So I certainly would recommend at least getting 1,000 points for the month. The Charger itself is, it's a green mount. If you wanted a green mount, this is a green mount for you. It's cool. It's a very familiar horse-like sort of model that we've seen a few times. I'm pretty sure this exists in red as well as a couple other colors. But yeah, it's something that you can earn as well to sort of complete the whole ensemble for 1,400 points if that's something you're looking to do. Yeah, I'm down for this month, man. I think I kind of want the purple sweatsuit. I'm just saying. I think that could be really nice to have. The wand is neat. I might have to pick that up. The Banshee maces are kind of cool, although I think I'm still a little tainted from so much Sylvanas stuff that I still haven't gotten past that yet mentally. So I think I just leave that alone for a while, and maybe when it returns at some point, I can look at picking that stuff up. But I'll certainly be doing enough tender to earn the ensemble because it's very cool. So I'd like to get that put all together.
Yeah, the sweatsuits are hilarious. That seems like a must, maybe. I mean, they're only 100 tender each, so I think I could spare that. Everything seems to be a green or a purple theme, so like the wailing stuff is purple and the grotesque stuff is green. So I assume that we're getting the grotesque horse as part of the bonus, and the wailing one I assume is like a purple variant of that. So if you're more like the purple vibe instead of the green plaguey looking stuff, then it's going to cost you some tender. But yeah, and the ensemble, like the headpiece looks like it has kind of like a veil on it or something in the face. That looks really cool. It's definitely unique looking. Something a bit different, and I think on the shop should be a purple variant of that as well. Everything that they're giving us is like green, so the purple variant should be available with tender. The Forsaken stuff really isn't my lane. It's not the stuff that I like the best. So I don't know how nuts I'm going to go in terms of buying this stuff. But I love that they're doing sort of graduating bonus rewards this month, and that you get a whole bunch of different rewards at different point thresholds. And we're getting an extra 500 tender this month as well with the extended bar. I love it when they do that. What I'm hoping is that this is a blueprint for every race, or at least if not every race, at least the 8 races from vanilla. Maybe if they could cycle through those. We've seen a bunch of dwarven stuff get data mined in the last week or so maybe that's an upcoming trading post, is like the dwarf version of this stuff, which would be really cool. Obviously I'd freak out over the night elf version and buy everything, but I love this idea of okay, we're going to spotlight a player race for this month. We're going to have a whole bunch of new stuff themed around that race, and we're going to give you a ton of bonus stuff from completing the log. Like that is so cool. I love that. And with the extra tender too, it's like, if this isn't your month, if Forsaken aren't your guys, then that's just more tender you can bank for when it comes around. I gotta think they're going to do more than just the Forsaken, right? Like they'll probably end up doing everything as they go through, or like I said, at least the original 8. So yeah, I one thing I really like about the trading post, sometimes people have all kinds of different feelings about it, right? Because it's a collection vector, and it's you can't get everything off of it, and they do all kinds of different stuff with what they give you for free. I actually love that. I love that they just experiment with it. They mix it up. We get different things for the bonus reward. They distribute the bonus reward in different ways now. We're seeing with this, you get pieces along the way as you get your points for the month. I think that's a great idea. So I'm looking forward to the month rolling over and grabbing all this stuff, and I'll get some sweatpants and I'll bank some tender probably, and hopefully we'll get a night elf version on the trading post before too much longer. But I just love that it's this way that they can experiment with distributing rewards in different ways and just give you a little bit of extra bang for your buck with your subscription. So I think this is a really good one, even if you're not a big Forsaken player.
Yeah. All right. Gamescom 2025. This is August 20th to 24th in Cologne, Germany. So if anyone happens to be around that area or able to travel to it and you can get tickets to go into Gamescom, then you will be able to witness the World Soul Saga Midnight release, sort of not release, but announcement that they're choosing to do at this. And maybe they'll give us a release date. Who knows? I'm sure we'll at least figure out, what, at least a closer idea as to when this is coming out based off this. My guess is we get a release date at this event. So it's certainly something I'll at least be watching on streaming. That's something they're wanting to do. They're going to have some development team over there. Apparently there's a few additional surprises in store. I don't know if additional surprises in store means in the store or things that you might not be expecting that they're going to announce. So it could mean both. Who knows? There might be a play on words there that they're doing where there's purchasables that are going to be happening, or maybe it's a, hey, we're gonna give you a couple more surprises you weren't expecting at this announcement. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's August 20th. We got a couple months, so there's a little bit of time before that kicks off. And obviously we will be most likely hopping into season 3 around the same time as this announcement happened. So this lines up with there not being a season 4. This lines up with, hey, we're going to help you into season 3, and the moment season 3 comes out, we're announcing the launch date for, the new expansion, and so you'll know you'll have an idea when pre-patch is going to be landing. So this is your duration of season 3, and then into pre-patch, and then into the new expansion. That's my assumption of what this pacing sort of looks like based on what they're talking about. But I guess we'll get some confirmations between August 20th and 24th when they actually get in there and do their announcements for all this.
Yeah, I wish we had a concrete schedule, but maybe they don't know it yet. We don't know exactly when the announcement's going to take place. Yeah, I'm sure there'll be some new consumer products or something you can purchase at the show. That'll be pretty likely, but maybe we'll see. We know we're getting midnight details, and I agree that I would expect probably a release date, and not even just a window, but it just feels like that's a direction that they're moving in. So I think that'll be all part of it. So they're going to take the lid off of Midnight. We'll know more about it than just a logo and a title. And I would imagine they'll do a full presentation like they would do at a BlizzCon. This is what they did for Legion back in 2015, right? And of course, we thought that meant Legion was going to be out pretty soon. We were in the throes of, the Warlords doldrums, and we were desperate for new stuff. And Legion looked so cool. And Tom Chilton kind of gave us a wink and a nod that it was going to be out soon. And then it was a whole year from Gamescom 2015 to Legion release. But hey, that was a long time ago. That was 10 years ago somehow. Geez, those wounds are still kind of fresh for me. You might be able to tell. But yeah, it's going to be a huge news event. I wouldn't be shocked if they also squeezed in some 11.2.5 news around this. If you'll indulge me for a moment, I was just doing a little math and looking at some calendar dates. And I went back to 11.0.7, and it was actually 10 weeks from .7 to 11.1. And I'm thinking, obviously you had the holiday in there with the end of the year and everything like that. But I also am wondering if they gave just the season an extra 2 weeks to breathe, and then they pushed the .1 patch. If they follow a similar schedule here, this would mean that 11.2 would be out the week after Gamescom concludes. So the show would take place August 20th to the 24th. And then patch might be the 26th, which would kind of line up with, then we probably are looking at .2.5, maybe late October, 11.2.7 in that same window that we got 1.7 a couple weeks out from the end of year break. Is it outrageous to think maybe Midnight pre-patch is late February, and maybe they squeeze the expansion release in at the end of Q1 calendar 2026? I don't think that that's super far-fetched. I think it would go along with kind of the schedule that they've been on, some of the stuff they've alluded to. This might be ideal. Maybe this is what they would love to be able to do if they can get the production schedule to line up. But I think we could really be looking at something like that. I mean, obviously we'll know a lot more in a couple months, but Gamescom years ago was a huge show for Blizzard back in the mid-teens.
Yeah, Hearthstone was then. That was Gamescom.
Yeah, I mean, they had huge Hearthstone announcements, huge Heroes of the Storm announcements. Once upon a time, back when in that sort of mid-teens, era of Blizzard where they had 5 or 6 games running at a very high level. Like Gamescom was a huge show for them, and they haven't really been doing as much of this stuff in recent years, and in this climate of games, the games industry that we live in now. So, it's a whole different thing now under the Microsoft umbrella and everything like that. But, obviously the European WoW community is very strong and very passionate. I think it's cool that they're doing another big Gamescom show for them this year for Midnight. So really looking forward to what they do. I hope we get the whole shebang, man. Give me the whole features rundown. Give me all the PowerPoint slides. Get Ian up there with the whole thing, with the clicker going through the slides. Yeah. Give me the cinematic. Give me the release date. Get pre-orders going. Like I'm ready, I guess. Like I've enjoyed War Within. I think if they are on like an 18-19 month window between expansions, it's maybe a little tighter than I would absolutely love. But once the machine starts clicking away, it's hard not to get excited about it. So I got to think this isn't just like a tease, right? We already kind of had the tease. We know the title, we know the logo, we have all that stuff. So I'm expecting this to be a meaty presentation about the next expansion.
I agree. I'll also note that Gamescom has a little warning on their site I looked up that says Wednesday's admission, which is the 20th of August, is exclusively for trade visitors, media representatives, creators, and wildcard ticket holders. And wildcard ticket holders will get access after 1 p.m. So I'm thinking if they're making announcements, a lot of that's probably happening on Wednesday to just the media folk, to make sure that all the media folk get in on Wednesday to be able to do all of that. So I think the 20th is when we'll probably see an announcement happen. And then the subsequent days, there might be conversations or talks that take place. But either way, if you happen to be there, they're going to be over in Hall 8. So you can head over to Hall 8 to find Blizzard and all the Blizzard stuff that's happening there. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what comes out of Gamescom and all of the Gamescom stuff. Because like you said, like Hearthstone, to me, it was announced as a game you could play at Gamescom. It was announced to be able to be played on phones at Gamescom. There's just a lot of things that those announcements were really big announcements for the company. And it's certainly something that I feel like they could get back on board with doing a little bit more of, especially if we're going to have the, non-consistent BlizzCon that's maybe not happening every year, depending on how they choose to do it. I think they need to have a larger presence at some of these other places for their fan base to go and enjoy and hang out and have community of time, with that stuff. So I'd like to see them bigger at all the PAXs. I'd like to see them bigger at Gamescom. I'd like to see them bigger at those places so that, the community can come together and enjoy and spend time at those sorts of events if there's not going to be more consistent BlizzCon stuff every year. Okay, with that, I'd like to take a moment to thank our patrons. They contribute a ton to our show and help us to improve on the content we create. And today I'm giving a special shout out to Arajian, Bradley, Chris, James, Garrett, Kapowie, Max, and Shorel. Thank you so much for all that you give, as well as all of our patrons, past and present, out there. We got a new patron, Taldrith. Thank you so much, Taldrith, for hopping in and supporting. We appreciate all of our new patrons, and Taldrith, you hopped into the list, so thank you so much for jumping on and supporting. And that Patreon is over at patreon.com/thestartingzone. And you can head on over there and support the show, whatever tier you feel comfortable doing. But we appreciate all of our patrons, and thank you so much for what you give towards the show.
Absolutely. Welcome aboard, Tedder. Thank you for supporting us, and thank you to everybody, past and present, who has supported us over the years. We're getting close to what even is it going to be? 8 years, I guess, of the Patreon coming up this summer. So it's been a long time we've been running it, and you guys have been there with us for a really long time. So we appreciate all of that support. It helps keep the show on track, and it is the reason why you can enjoy the show every week, and all the archives are online for you to go back through. Patrons make that possible, so thank you.
Yeah. Another great way to support the show is head on to your iTunes, your Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Leave us those 5-star reviews. They really help us out, and we really appreciate those. And if you've stuck around, if you didn't turn off the podcast when I started thanking patrons, which I don't know if people do or not, I'm just saying if you didn't, there's a giveaway happening. The Sean Fused Epic Pack is something that's happening for those classic players that are out there, but there's some really pretty live game stuff in there. You have the Shaw Warped Cloud Serpent mount. You got the Shaw Touch Cloud Serpent mount for Classic. You got the Shaw Warped Riding Tiger for Modern, and then the Riding Tiger for Classic. You got Merriment Pet that's in there, the Joyous Pet for Classic. You got the Shaw Warped T-set for Modern and the T-set for Classic. The Ensemble for Storm Stout's Shaw Wrapped outfit for Modern and Classic are both in there as well. There's also the level 85 character boost and 30 days of game time. And Blizzard has given us a code to give away. So this is actually, they're charging $80 US for this Shaw Infused pack. It's $40 if you just want the cosmetic stuff. It's $80 if you want the cosmetic stuff plus 30 days of game time and a level 85 character boost. A level 85 character boost on its own right now is $60 US. It's crazy. So them giving out all the cosmetics, 30 days game time, and the boost for $80, like, I still think is expensive, but we're giving a code away for free. So if you want this pack for free, the Shaw Infused pack, then you got to let us know which zone inside Mists of Pandaria you're most looking forward to revisiting and going back through in this content. And what we want you to do is email us. That's why I placed this where I did, not only for those folks who just listened to the end of the episode, but also because I'm about to tell you what email address we have. So you can contact the show at thestartingzone@gmail.com. Just have giveaway and Shaw, like giveaway Shaw or something like that inside of the title, so I can actually clump the emails easier. I'd appreciate that inside of the title. Just put, Shaw Infused giveaway or giveaway Shaw or something like that inside the title, and I'll be able to group those up. And thestartingzone@gmail.com. Let us know which zone you're looking forward to most, working your way through or revisiting inside of the Mists of Pandaria time walking that's going to be coming up. So Mists of Pandaria zone, you're looking forward to revisiting. Outside of that, and this isn't for the giveaway stuff, you can also find us on social media, thestartingzone.bsky.social, at the Starting Zone on Twitter, or you can join our Discord server, thestartingzone.com/Discord, and hop in there and support the show. But we wanted to do a giveaway for this code for our listeners out there who listen to the podcast stuff. So we're putting it here towards the end of the episode for the people who actually listen through things here at the end. And obviously, as we got a couple of weeks before we need to give this code away for sure. So we want to give it away before the 20th. Obviously, 21st is when this launches. So we want to be sure you have all your rewards before this actually kicks off, and your boost and all that. But we're gonna run it on the podcast, and I might move it up in the episode, obviously as far as giveaway stuff goes on future episodes. But this one, if you want to get in early, here's your early get in for those people for that Shaw Infused pack, thestartingzone@gmail.com. Okay, Jason, if folks are looking for you on the internet, where can they find you?
Best place to find me is on socials. You can find me on Twitter. I'm over there at Shieldwald, and you can find me on Blue Sky. It's jlucas.bsky.social over there. I mostly post on Blue Sky, but I do check both sites regularly, so you can find me either place. Come say hi. And you can also find video channels over at twitch.tv/Shieldwald and youtube.com/Shieldwald. Streams have remained quiet. I don't really know when I'm getting back to it, to be honest. I'm sure they're not dead forever, but I'm not really actively streaming right now. But the channels are over there. And if I feel like throwing anything up on stream, you can find it over there.
Yeah. And if you're trying to find me, you can find me on Twitter at Spencer_Downey or over on Blue Sky at Spencer.bsky.social. I have a Twitch channel, twitch.tv/SpencerHD, and YouTube. I have a YouTube channel, youtube.com/@SpencerHD. These may become active soon. If you have not, head on over to subscribe or follow on those different places. Be sure you head on over and do it if you're looking to find me as I'm streaming things, because I might kick off some of that soon here. I've been encouraged by several people to start doing it again, so I should start doing it again soon. All right, with that, for myself and Jason, I want to say thanks for listening, and jobs done.